Nia Vance parked her old Honda outside the White Rose restaurant and paused for a second, looking at the glowing windows of the two-story building. It was Thursday, 7 in the evening, exactly 1 week before the most important day of her life, her wedding to Marcus. She still couldn't believe this was all happening to her. An ordinary financial analyst at a small construction firm, a girl with no special talents or dazzling beauty. Yet Marcus had chosen her. Tall, charming, with a good job at an advertising agency. His mother, Evelyn Thorne, had admittedly been cool toward their relationship at first, but then she seemed to thaw, even helping to choose this venue for the reception. Nia got out of the car, adjusted her purse on her shoulder, and headed toward the entrance. A list of tasks swirled in her head: finalize the menu, settle the guest seating, discuss the music playlist, and check the hall decorations. Evelyn had insisted that Nia go alone, saying the bride knows best what she wants. Marcus was busy at work, and besides, he always said that wedding fuss was a woman's job. The door to the restaurant swung open, and Nia was hit by warmth and the smell of fresh pastries. Inside, it was almost empty for a weeknight evening, still an hour before the dinner rush. A woman in her 30s stood behind the host's stand, flipping through some papers. Nia started toward her, but was intercepted by a young waitress in a black and white uniform. The girl looked agitated. Her face was drawn, her eyes wide with fear. "Excuse me, are you Nia Vance?" she asked quickly, looking Nia straight in the eye. "Yes, I am. We had an appointment for 7 o'clock. I'm here about the banquet." Nia smiled confusedly. "Huh. How do you know my name?" The waitress grabbed her by the arm. Her fingers were cold, squeezing tight, almost painfully. "Listen to me carefully." The girl's voice trembled, but sounded urgent. "You need to hide immediately. Do you see that carved wooden screen at the back of the hall? Go behind it and don't come out until I say so. There's no time to explain. Just trust me, please." Tears almost broke through in the girl's voice. "In a few minutes, people will come here. You cannot let them see you. I will explain everything later. I promise. But right now, just go there." Nia stood in the middle of the restaurant lobby, staring into the desperate eyes of the stranger. The whole situation seemed absurd. Some girl she was seeing for the first time was demanding she hide immediately. A normal person would have said no and asked for the manager. But something in the waitress's tone, in her gaze, in that genuine panic made Nia fall silent. "Please," the girl whispered. "I am not crazy and I don't want to hurt you. On the contrary, I beg you. Just trust me. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes." Nia nodded slowly, not knowing why she obeyed. Maybe intuition kicked in. Maybe just curiosity. The waitress immediately let go of her hand, glanced quickly at the front door, and almost pushed Nia toward the dining hall. Right at the very end, behind the screen, there is a small alcove. You won't be seen from there, but you'll be able to hear everything happening in the room. Nia walked through the hall. Her legs moved as if on their own. Her heart pounded somewhere in her throat. The restaurant was decorated in a classic style: white tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, paintings in gilded frames on the walls. In the far corner, there really was a tall carved screen of dark wood. Behind it lay a small alcove with a soft sofa, apparently for guests who wanted privacy. Nia sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching her purse on her knees. Her hands were shaking. What was she doing? Hiding in her own wedding venue from some unknown people. Maybe this was a prank. Her friend Katie was always arranging strange surprises. But no, the waitress looked too frightened for a prank. A minute passed, then 2. Nia heard soft music playing in the hall. Somewhere, dishes clinked. She was just about to come out and demand an explanation when the front door slammed. Nia sat behind the screen, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She felt ridiculous, hiding in the shadows of a restaurant she had chosen for her own celebration. But then, the silence of the hall was shattered by the sound of footsteps, heavy, confident, and familiar. She peeked through a narrow slit in the wood and froze. Her future mother-in-law, Evelyn Thorne, walked in, looking as impeccable as ever in a sharp navy suit. Following closely behind was Marcus. He looked nervous, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, glancing around the empty restaurant with a shifty gaze. They sat at a table only a few feet away from Nia's hiding spot. "Mom, I don't like this," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling. "What if she finds out? What if she's already here?" "Don't be a coward, Marcus," Evelyn snapped, her voice cold and sharp as a blade. She reached into her leather bag and pulled out a thick folder, slapping it onto the table. "I chose this time specifically because it's quiet. Now look at these. These are the loan agreements. 3 different banks, totaling $150,000. Nia felt the air leave her lungs. $150,000? In whose name? "We will have her sign them right after the ceremony," Evelyn continued, her eyes gleaming with a predatory light. "We'll tell her they are documents to make her a partner in the family advertising firm. She's an analyst. She's used to seeing numbers, but she's also a fool in love. She won't read the fine print if you're the one handing her the pen." "But Mom, taking out loans in her name without her knowing, that's illegal. And then the divorce? You really want me to leave her 6 months later?" Marcus asked, though he didn't sound angry. He sounded like he was looking for an excuse to be convinced. "It's survival, Marcus," Evelyn hissed. "Our debts are mounting. The collectors are breathing down our necks. Nia has a perfect credit score and a condo with no mortgage. She is our ticket out of this. By the time the banks come for the money, you'll be long gone, and the debt will be hers alone. She's young. She'll recover. We won't." Nia gripped the edge of the sofa so hard her knuckles turned white. The man who had promised to cherish her for the rest of his life was currently discussing how to sell her soul to save his own skin. Every "I love you," every bouquet of flowers, every soft kiss, it was all a calculated investment for this moment. She wasn't a bride to them. She was a bank account. The conversation continued, detailing how they would rush her through the signing before the honeymoon, using the excitement of the wedding to mask their crime. Nia watched Marcus nod slowly, his resistance fading as he stared at the money they hoped to steal. When they finally stood up and left, the silence that followed was heavier than any noise. Nia didn't move. She couldn't. She felt as though she had been turned to stone. A few seconds after the door slammed shut, the young waitress, Kesha, appeared from the shadows and sat down next to Nia on the sofa. Nia was shaking, her breath coming in shallow gasps. She looked at Kesha, her eyes filled with a mixture of horror and profound betrayal. "Did you hear everything?" Kesha asked quietly. Nia nodded slowly. "Loans, a divorce. They were going to destroy me before the marriage even began." She looked at Kesha, a sudden realization hitting her. "How did you know? How did you know they would be here talking about this?" Kesha looked down at her hands, her expression hardening. "Because 3.5 years ago, I was sitting where you are. Not behind a screen, but at the altar. My name is Kesha, and I was the wife of Julian, Marcus's older brother." Nia's eyes widened. You were part of the family?" "I was a victim of the family," Kesha corrected. "I was an assistant accountant, just a girl with a small condo left to me by my grandmother. Julian was charming, just like Marcus. He swept me off my feet. A week after our wedding, they sat me down with a pile of papers. They said it was for the family construction business. I trusted him. I signed everything." Kesha stood up and paced the small alcove. "By the time we got back from our honeymoon, I was over $100,000 in debt. My condo was collateral. Evelyn had already taken the cash. 2 months later, Julian filed for divorce, claiming I was unstable. The courts left the debt with me because my signature was on every page. I lost everything. My home, my savings, my credit. I work 2 jobs now just to pay off interest on a loan I never spent a dime of." Nia reached out and took Kesha's hand. The two women stood there, two generations of prey for the same predators. "Why did you stay here? In this restaurant?" Nia whispered. "Because I knew Evelyn Thorne was a creature of habit," Kesha said, her voice turning cold and determined. "She comes here to plot. I've been waiting for her to try it again. When I saw Nia Vance on the reservation list under the name Thorne, I knew the cycle had started once more. I couldn't let it happen to you." Nia wiped a stray tear from her cheek. The icy emptiness in her chest was being replaced by something else, a sharp, burning rage. "They think I'm a fool," Nia said, her voice gaining strength. "They think I'm just a number on a credit report." "They are professionals, Nia," Kesha warned. "They choose people who are kind and trusting. But they don't expect their victims to talk to each other." Nia stood up, smoothing out her coat. "I'm not going to let them win, Kesha. I'm not just going to run away and let them find someone else. We're going to stop them." Nia drove back to the apartment she shared with Marcus, her hands steady on the wheel despite the storm raging in her mind. Every street lamp she passed felt like a spotlight on the lie her life had become. When she walked through the door, Marcus was there, sitting on the sofa with a glass of wine, looking every bit the part of the doting fiancé. "There she is," he beamed, standing up to kiss her. Nia felt a wave of nausea as his lips touched her cheek, but she forced a smile. "How was the restaurant, babe? Did you get the seating chart sorted?" "It was perfect, Marcus," Nia said, her voice smooth and convincing. "Your mother was right. The lighting is beautiful. I can already see us there, surrounded by everyone we love." She watched him relax, a flicker of guilt crossing his eyes before being replaced by the smug satisfaction of a man who thought he had already won. For the next few hours, Nia played the role of a lifetime. She talked about flowers, about the guest list, and about their future. But inside, she was a soldier behind enemy lines. The next morning, Nia met with Kesha and a lawyer named Mr. Sterling. In a cramped office filled with the scent of old paper and coffee, Nia laid out the plan. "I don't just want to leave him," Nia told the lawyer. "I want them caught in the act. If I just disappear, they'll do this to the next girl. We need them to hand over the fraudulent documents in front of witnesses." Mr. Sterling leaned forward. "It's dangerous, Nia. You'll have to lead them to the very edge of the cliff. You'll have to pretend you're ready to sign." "I can do it," Nia said firmly. "I'm a financial analyst. I deal with contracts every day. I'll make them think I'm so blinded by wedding brain that I've stopped looking at the details." Nia began her countermove that afternoon. She called Evelyn, her voice bubbling with feigned excitement. "Evelyn, Marcus mentioned the family business share you wanted to give me. I was thinking, why wait until after the wedding? Things will be so hectic then. Why don't we do the paperwork tomorrow? I want to feel like a real part of the Thorne family before I walk down the aisle." On the other end of the line, Nia could almost hear Evelyn's predatory grin. "What a wonderful idea, Nia. It shows such commitment. I'll arrange a notary for tomorrow morning. We can get it all settled quickly." Nia hung up, her face turning cold the moment the call ended. She had set the bait. Now, she just had to wait for the sharks to bite. The morning of the meeting arrived with a heavy, gray sky. Nia woke up early, watching Marcus sleep. He looked so peaceful, so innocent, yet she now knew that every dream he had was funded by the destruction of others. She dressed carefully in a professional charcoal suit, the armor of an analyst, not a bride. She met Kesha at a small cafe blocks away from the notary's office. Kesha had managed to track down Renee, the first victim Julian had ruined. Renee was a shadow of her former self, her eyes hollowed out by years of debt and regret. "I didn't think anyone would ever listen," Renee whispered, clutching a cup of tea. "They told me if I went to the police, I'd be arrested for fraud myself. They said I signed the papers, so I was the criminal." Nia reached across the table and squeezed Renee's hand. "Not today. Today, the paper trail ends with them." Nia's lawyer, Mr. Sterling, joined them. He had spent the night coordinating with a contact in the white-collar crime division of the local police. "We have the notary office wired," Sterling explained. "The notary you're meeting, Ms. Davids, is fully briefed. She will play along until the documents are presented. Nia, you must get Evelyn to explicitly state on camera, which we've hidden in the office, that these documents are for the family business share and not loans." Nia felt a chill of adrenaline. "I understand. I'll make her say it." As Nia walked toward the notary office, she saw Evelyn and Marcus standing on the sidewalk. Evelyn held a leather folder against her chest like it was a holy relic. Marcus looked pale, his eyes darting around the street. He looked less like a groom and more like a man walking toward a crime scene. "Nia, dear, you look so professional," Evelyn chirped, kissing Nia's cheek. "Are you ready to become a true Thorne?" "More than you know, Evelyn," Nia replied, her voice steady. "Let's get this over with. We have a wedding to get to, after all." They walked into the building, the heavy glass doors closing behind them with a definitive thud. Nia knew that when she walked out of those doors again, her life would never be the same. The trap was set, and the predators were walking right into it, smiling all the way. The office was quiet, smelling of old leather and floor wax. Ms. Davids, the notary, sat behind a heavy oak desk, her expression neutral as she gestured for them to sit. Nia sat in the center, with Marcus to her left and Evelyn to her right. Evelyn wasted no time, pulling the thick stack of papers from her folder and sliding them across the desk toward Nia. "Here we are," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Just as we discussed. These documents officially make you a partner in Thorne Advertising. It's our wedding gift to you, Nia. A way to ensure you're always taken care of." Nia picked up the first page, her eyes scanning the complex legal jargon. She felt Marcus's gaze burning into the side of her face. He was leaning in, his breathing shallow. "It looks like a lot of paperwork just for a partnership," Nia remarked casually, flipping through the pages. She stopped at a paragraph filled with small print. "Evelyn, what does personal guarantee and collateralization mean in this context?" "It mentions my condo." Evelyn didn't blink. "Oh, that's just standard corporate language, dear. It's to show the banks that the new partner is solvent. It's a formality to protect the company's credit line. Marcus signed the same thing years ago, didn't you, son?" "Yeah," Marcus lied, his voice cracking slightly. "Exactly the same. It's just, family business stuff. Don't worry about the legalese, Nia. I've already vetted everything." Nia looked directly into the hidden camera lens disguised as a clock on the wall. "So, just to be absolutely clear for my own understanding, these documents are specifically for my entry into the family business? This isn't a loan or a mortgage on my property." "Of course not." Evelyn laughed, a sharp, cold sound. "It's a partnership agreement. You have my word as your future mother-in-law. Now, we really should hurry. The notary has a busy schedule." Nia picked up the pen. She felt the weight of it in her hand. This was the moment. She hovered the nib over the signature line, watching Evelyn's eyes widen with greed. Marcus was trembling now, his hands gripped tightly in his lap. "Sign it, Nia," Marcus whispered. "Let's just get it done so we can be happy." Nia dropped the pen. It clattered loudly against the oak desk. She looked up at Evelyn and smiled, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Only a cold, piercing clarity. "I don't think I will," Nia said softly. The silence in the room was suffocating. Evelyn's smile didn't fade immediately. It simply froze, turning into a brittle mask of confusion. Marcus looked as if he were about to faint, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. "What do you mean, Nia?" Evelyn asked, her voice tight, the sweetness beginning to curdle. "We've talked about this. This is for your future. For the family." "I mean," Nia said, standing up slowly and smoothing her suit jacket, "that I know exactly what is in these folders. I know about the 3 banks. I know about the $150,000. And I know about the divorce you planned for 6 months from now. Marcus gasped, his chair screeching against the floor as he jerked backward. Nia, wait, I can explain. Explain what, Marcus? Nia turned her gaze on him, her voice vibrating with a cold, hard authority. Explain that you are going to use my credit and my home to pay off your mother's gambling debts and failed business ventures? Or explain how you sat in that restaurant and agreed to ruin the woman you claim to love. Evelyn's face transformed. The mask of the elegant mother-in-law shattered, revealing the snarling predator underneath. She lunged for the documents on the desk, but Ms. Davids, the notary, was faster. She pulled the folder away and stood up. That's enough, Ms. Davids said, her voice no longer neutral but commanding. The door to the inner office burst open. 2 plainclothes detectives stepped into the room, followed by Mr. Sterling. One of the detectives held up a digital recorder. Evelyn Thorne, Marcus Thorne, the detective announced. You are being detained on suspicion of conspiracy to commit grand larceny and fraud. We have the recordings from the restaurant, and we've just captured your fraudulent representations of these documents on video. Evelyn began to scream, a high-pitched, frantic sound. She tried to push past the detectives, hurling insults at Nia. You ungrateful little girl. You're nothing. We were going to make you someone. Marcus, on the other hand, collapsed back into his chair and buried his face in his hands, sobbing. I told you, Mom. I told you she was too smart. Nia watched as the detectives moved in to handcuff them. She felt a strange sense of detachment. She had expected to feel a great surge of triumph, but instead, she felt a profound sense of relief. The weight of the lie was finally gone. She watched the man she almost married being let out in chains, and for the first time in a week, Nia Vance could finally breathe. The heavy silence of the notary office was replaced by the chaotic sounds of the city outside. Nia stood on the sidewalk, watching as the police car disappeared into the flow of traffic. Inside that car sat the man she thought was her soulmate and the woman she almost called mother. They were headed to a cold cell, while she was left with the wreckage of a life she thought was perfect. Kesha and Renee approached her from across the street. There were no cheers, only a profound sense of shared relief. They had done it. The cycle that had ruined their lives had finally been broken. What will you do now? Kesha asked, her voice soft with empathy. Nia looked at the diamond ring on her finger, the symbol of a lie. She slowly slid it off and handed it to Mr. Sterling.
Sell it, she said.
Use the money to start a legal fund for other women who have been trapped by people like the Thornes. I don't want a single penny of their corruption. Over the next few months, Nia's life transformed. The trial was swift. With the overwhelming evidence Nia and Kesha had gathered, the Thornes had no defense. Evelyn was sentenced to 7 years, and Marcus, found guilty as a co-conspirator, received 5. The news of the wedding scammers hit the headlines, but Nia stayed out of the spotlight. She focused on her work and her new mission, helping others spot the red flags before it was too late. She eventually moved out of the city, finding a small house with a garden that faced the sunrise. 1 year later, Nia sat on her porch, holding a cup of coffee. She looked at a photo on her phone, a picture of her, Kesha, and Renee at a dinner, all of them smiling, truly smiling, for the first time. Nia realized that she hadn't just lost a fiancé, she had gained her own life back. She had learned that being stupidly in love was a vulnerability, but being wisely strong was her superpower. As the sun rose over the hills, Nia Vance knew that her story wasn't a tragedy of betrayal, but a masterpiece of survival. The fading voices were finally being heard, and this time, they were singing a song of freedom. That concludes Nia's journey, a powerful reminder that we must always be the masters of our own destiny. If you are inspired by Nia's courage and strength, please hit the like button right now. Your support helps us bring more of these incredible stories to life. If you haven't already, Make sure to subscribe to Fading Voices of Anime and turn on the notification bell. You don't want to miss our next deep dive into stories of truth, betrayal, and triumph. Now, we have a question for you. We want to know how far Nia's story has traveled today. Please drop a comment below and tell us which city or country you are watching from. We read every single comment, and it truly warms our hearts to see our global community growing. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Take care of yourselves, stay vigilant, and we will see you in the next story. Much love.